Hey guys, it is Christine, also known as IvyWinter. Thank you for joining me for another unpopular Disney opinion. Today I have Jimmy from Critical Reviews joining me. If you haven't seen, a couple of weeks ago I was on his podcast, Critical Reviews, and so now he is here with me on my channel to go through yet another unpopular Disney opinion. Thank you for joining me, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on here.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about your channel and what you guys do over there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I think you kind of put it best on one of the most recent episodes of the TTA podcast, is that we're kind of about pop culture. We talk about movies, video games, TV shows, all that stuff. And because we cover all entertainment stuff, we just premiered our first Disney show. And I love Disney. I've been there a bunch. So I was like, we got to get Disney in there somehow. I want to talk about it. And I'm going there in a week. I was like, we got to talk more about this. So when we decided to do a little show together, you're like, we could do like an unpopular Disney opinion. I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm definitely going to make some friends today, I'm sure.
I say that every time I do this. I'm just like, okay, I know there's people out there unsubscribing right now.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. These are my favorite ones to do with other people because, I mean, that's the whole point, right? I think everyone has an unpopular opinion or two to talk about.
Oh, totally.
So today we're going to jump in with yours, which is that Dinosaur is a superior ride to Indiana Jones over in Disneyland, which I think there's a lot of Disneyland people right now who are just turning off this video.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, and I'm out.
So,
which is fine.
Go for it. Why do you love Dinosaur, and why do you think Indy just doesn't hold a candle to it?
Yeah, so I kind of want to go way back, way back, like they do in Dinosaur, when it used to be Countdown to Extinction, which in my mind, it's always going to be Countdown. I hated when they rebranded, and they're like, it's Dinosaur. But I grew up loving dinosaurs, and I also grew up loving Indiana Jones, so both right there. I don't know if they cancel each other out, but I've always loved dinosaurs so much. And I never really went to Universal as a kid, so this was like my experience with dinosaurs, and boy howdy. Do you ever get up close and personal with these things? Like these things, like in the ride, still to this day, probably some of the most terrifying audio animatronics anywhere. And I'm even talking the Forbidden Mountain, because let's just say Disco Yeti, you are scary, but you don't move much anymore. Like these guys are still moving around, shaking, attacking the car. My goodness, bring somebody on there for the first time, put them like front row on the left side, especially when that first Carnotaurus pops up. Oh my goodness, like true terror. And I think that's one of the things that this ride has on Indy, is that it truly feels scary. Like there's never a moment where you feel safe. Like after you go through that toaster of a time vortex, you're like, here we are, here we go. And I will say that, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but one of the things a lot of people talk about with Indiana Jones is the queue line, which I think is amazing. Yeah. It's so great. There's two big problems I have with it, though. It is very long. It is desperately long, and you have to use it to come back through. So it seems a little weird because you're like walking past all these people, and you're just like, hey, I made it through my journey. But keep going. And I love Indy so much, and so going on it multiple times can be very tiring if they're like, yep, you have to go to the front and come all the way back. It's like, oh man. Whereas like Dinosaur, you don't really know what to expect. You're in this like museum, you have the Dino Institute, and you're like, okay, Bill Nye's on the narration. I'm digging it, but you don't really know what to expect. You see the signs where it's like, oh, this is like a thrilling ride, and you're like, are you sure it's a thrilling ride?
You're in this like boring museum, like what?
Yeah, exactly. And then you have this weird little movie, which I love and could basically quote the whole thing. And I love that the narrative here feels so different. I feel like it makes a little more sense because we're supposed to be just like one tour group. There's not supposed to be thousands of people coming through every day, but this is supposed to be one time, and we're trying to go back to do this one specific thing. Over on the Forbidden Eye side, you kind of are going in as a bunch of tourists, either gaining knowledge, youth, or wealth, and tourists are just either going in and coming out with those things or just dying, and they're just still going in like all the time. And it's like, I feel like the economy would collapse and people just kept coming out with just like infinite money, and they're just like, yeah, I went in there but my uncle died, like, so don't worry about it. And I love the solid narration throughout like the beginning and the little movie and stuff. That's great too.
Right.
But the story itself feels a little weird to me personally, going on it pretty recently again. And I was just there back in March, so I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what it is today. And I gotta say, some of the effects in The Forbidden Eye feel a little dated. I think the snake animatronic is not super great. I think the big ghost, when you're actually in the massive like stone sculpture head, doesn't look super good. And there is one moment that happens from time to time where I think it's a loading issue where they're trying to load more people in, but your Jeep will just kind of stop in a dark tunnel and it won't go anywhere for a bit. Like, this doesn't always happen, but it feels like it does once in a while, and you're just kind of like, that's the scariest part for me. Like, you're just sitting there and you're like,
off of this ride?
yeah, you're like, yeah, are we going to walk away from this? But then you kind of like go, and there's like that kind of like smoke with the rats or something, the branch you kind of cut through. It just, I don't know, some of those effects, and the dart room. I love the dart room idea, but it feels so B tier because it's just flat walls with these skeletons. It's so much cooler. And I think the one in Tokyo Disney Sea is much better. Like, they should update it to that. You know, and the indie animatronic is fine. There's sometimes when you look at some of them that don't look the best. I will say that finale, I think both finales are really good because you kind of have the same effect where you're kind of undercutting something big. But the Indiana Jones one, I feel like, is so kind of expected almost in a way. If you don't know it's coming, it's really cool. But the one with Dinosaur, you're not really like ready for the fact that, like, okay, we have to leave just in general. Carnotaurus is jumping at the car. The asteroid is hitting it, like, right now. And, like, all of it comes together, and you're like, oh my gosh. And it just feels like you just get out just by this much. And you're like, yes.
We're not going to make it. We're not going to make it.
Which, hilariously enough, once we did stop right before they turned the lights on there. And I was just like, I guess we didn't make it. Like, it was over. And the last thing I guess I would say, too, about this is that, you know, with Indy, you see all these other Jeeps kind of moving around, so it doesn't feel like as much of a personal experience. And I kind of like that feeling. So when you're in Dinosaur, you're like, you only see your car. Like, there's nobody else around you. You're just like, this is my adventure. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I still love both.
It's funny you said that last part is something that Rob talks about a lot. Like, when we've talked about the ride before, he's just like, I hate that you can see all the other cars. And I actually don't mind. Like, there's something I really love about that reveal of that big cavernous room. And kind of see, like, I don't mind that you see the vehicle ahead of you going across the bridge, because I think for me, especially the first time I rode it, I was like, whoa, I'm actually going across that thing? Like, I think I would have just thought it was something almost in the background, you know? And so I guess I didn't mind it too much, but I could see how that could be bothersome for some people. And it's funny because I think the first time I went on it, like, I was super in love with the ride, but it was also very new for me. Like, at that point, I had been on Dinosaur, God, dozens of times. And so Indy was just a whole new experience for me. And I do think that their queue is fantastic. I agree that it is long. But I do think despite its length, it is fairly continuously interesting. Like, they definitely do change it up as you're going through. I feel like Dinosaur is always thrilling for me, no matter how many times I ride it. Whereas, like, Indy this last time, so it broke down 2 times before we even got on the ride. So we had Max Pass for it, and it broke down 2 times while we were doing other things. So we got one of those, like, anytime fast passes. But it was Columbus Day, things were crazy, and we didn't really want to go on that ride. So when it came back up, we decided to use it for Indy anyway. It's doing great, getting through the line, about 5 minutes before loading, and it goes down again. And, you know, there's definitely some rides that have more issues, I think, than others. But I guess I was just kind of surprised by it, because I don't think I've seen Dinosaur down from time to time in Animal Kingdom, but I've never seen it go down multiple times in just a couple of hours. Like, to have it go down and then be back up and go down and be back up. And then people were like, oh, this is normal. And I was like, well, if this is normal, maybe we should take some time to shut it down and fix the whole thing, because clearly there's something up. So, you know, we waited an additional, I guess, it was probably maybe 15, 20 minutes. They were able to get it fixed. watching these poor folks who were just about to leave the docking area, but like were like just beyond, you know, so they couldn't get off, and they were just stuck in the cars, and you saw like the cast members kept walking around trying to tell them like, it's all good, you're gonna be okay.
That's great.
And I kept thinking, oh god, these poor people stuck in the actual ride for like 20 minutes.
On the bridge.
Right. So I think that definitely detracted from the experience. And then I did feel like, I agree with you that I feel like a lot of it feels dated. Like that first room it's supposed to make it look like you're rotating to different tracks. Hasn't done that in forever. I think you're right, the animatronics of Indy are just okay. I really did love the finale the first time I did it because I didn't know what to expect, and I think you naturally think you're going to go backwards.
Sure, yeah.
And so my husband had the same experience. Like, that was his favorite part of the whole ride, but I thought he was going to love it, and he came off saying, like, meh. He felt like it was just a lot in the dark. Like, he was just like, there's just a lot of rooms in the dark. And, like, it's not really, like, showing me anything or doing anything. It's just supposed to be, like, spooky, dark areas. I think that there are some neat rooms that I wish you spent more time in.
Yes.
Like, the one that you mentioned with that ghost that, like, pops up on the top. Take that thing away, just all of the crazy wax candles they're amazing, but you go through that room so fast, and it's like I don't get a moment to enjoy the detail of that area. But I think that's why people love Indy so much, is because it's Indy, and you know, given the fact that like having a ride there is a bit cooler than having a stunt show over in Disney World,
totally.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think it like really solidified my love for Dinosaur, because I just think it just does it better.
The thing is, like, it's hard because if it was any other IP, like you said, I don't think people would be as forgiving to it, but because it is, and it's kind of one of the coolest representations we have of this character in this world, we're all just so like, that's okay, like, it's fine, don't worry about it, this could be better, but you're Indiana Jones, it's okay. But for me, I'm still just Dinosaur, man. I love it. It's so good. I love both. I just love the ride vehicles too. Like, it makes more sense with a Time Rover, I think, because they kind of talk about it a lot, whereas Indy is just like, get in this Jeep, go, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said the Dinosaur just has a better story, because all you really get from Indy is like that video when you're in line, which kind of explains what you said, like people are going in, but some people are not coming back, and what are they gonna do? And then we're still going anyway, for whatever the reason is. And I also feel like Indiana Jones would never let this happen. He would never be okay with tourists just coming to this temple.
It seems really weird. He's just like holding a door shut in the beginning. He's like, go up over there. You're like, what do you mean?
He
and
would
you'd be like, stop
leave
car
now. Like,
what are you
doing?
Like, just stop. Why are you even here? Why are there a bunch of tourists? Like, and the thing is, in the story too, they say like Indiana Jones went in a few days ago, but he hasn't come out yet, so we're gonna send all of you in there. It's
right, like we're gonna save him. Yeah.
If Indy's dead, we're all dead.
Right. And then what I also love about the Dinosaur story is, so I mean, you've got the basics of like, cool, we're going through a bunch of dinosaurs, which for any kid, like, that's so exciting. Like, getting to see so many different kinds of dinosaurs. And then you got this story of the Carnotaurus, and then you actually had the dinosaur that you're trying to rescue saving you at the end, which
that's such a good moment.
A lot of people miss, like, because it is pretty quick, you know, like everything's kind of crazy at that point. But he's there holding a freaking tree up, saving you so that you can all get out. And like, I don't know. I think there is a better storytelling there in general. I agree with you. I also love the opening video. I love the idea of the back and forth of like, we're doing this secret mission that we're not supposed to be doing, and like it makes it more exciting because you're like, ooh, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but it's important and it's for science, and we're gonna go do it. I think there's so much more build up emotionally to the ride, and I think there's a bigger payoff at the end. Plus, you get a neato photo. So. Yeah,
exactly. And like, I didn't know this for a long time, but there's that mirror kind of at the end when you turn in, and you kind of see the iguanodon is like up on a security camera, you know, and they're like, hey, I guess we made it back with you. Apparently a while ago they were trying to do the same effect with an animatronic, that the iguanodon was sitting in the Jeep with you, kind of like the hitchhiking ghost. So when you see that mirror at the end, that was originally the plan, and it just didn't work out super well, so that's why they put that little monitor that was like, hey. So it's like, oh man, that would have been really hard to make it work. Like,
yeah, I can't imagine a giant dino sitting in the time room with a bunch of people, like, a little off.
Yeah, so when you see that mirror after that amazing turn at the very end that, like, throws you, you're, like, back in the present, and it's still, they, like, whip you around this corner. Like, you just remember that there, at one time, is going to be something a little different at the end.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, I guess in the end, I'm kind of agreeing with you here on this opinion.
That's okay. It's a shared opinion, though. It's okay. I'm very positive there are plenty of people out there who will disagree, probably in the kindest way possible. They'll be like, you know what? Let's agree to disagree, and we'll both shake hands, and it'll be all wonderful. That's what's going to happen. I
hope that's what all of you do right now. I want someone to literally just comment that below now. Just, like, shakes hands. You know, actually, I think this one's going to be interesting because some of them are a little bit more cut and dry. Like there is a 100% unpopular opinion, and some of them are a little bit more in the middle. So I think it's going to make for a really interesting discussion. So I would love to know what you guys think. Do you think Dinosaur or Indiana Jones is the better of the two rides? Why? Let me know in the comments below. You should definitely check out Critical Reviews. It is so great. If you just like pop culture in general, you like comic books and movies and video games and all of that, you should definitely check it out because they're doing a lot of great stuff over there. And like Jimmy just said, they're starting a Disney series. So if you just want more of that, there's
stuff. Or vlogs too. Yeah, because like watching you and Rob vlog and stuff, and I've been doing it a little bit, just like it really inspires me. So like we've been doing more and more of that stuff too. So if you like Disney vlogs, we've got that too.
Yeah, check that out for sure. I will put a link in the description below. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so much fun to be on this because I love your stuff and I've watched like all of it. So I was like, oh, cool, I get to be on an unpopular opinion. Yes, let's do it. Yeah.
Nice. And that's it, guys. So as always, have a great rest of the day. Bye.